This is my third semester teaching this class. I've noticed a few issues in the previous classes I taught, and I felt that I need to make it clear before we start what this class is about. So this is the photo of the conversation. You have the interviewer here. You have the puppets, Cindy Hot Chocolate. And then you have Nigel, who is the puppeteer. And part of the art of being a ventriloquist is that when you talk, your lips don't move. Even though he's shifting between using her voice and using his own voice, you can't see when he's talking through the puppet. So you have three people in this conversation, as we have said. Now, I want to compare this conversation to this class, and I will explain why. This is you. There's something you want to learn from this class, I hope, and you are engaged in a conversation between, funnily enough, two groups of people. One of those people is now me. I'm the puppet here. I am representing the academy, I'm representing scholarship, I'm representing probably, which I hope not, what the government expects people who do a master's to know. So all those things are part of my voice in this class, unfortunately. What I've noticed, especially with the previous classes, is that the students are not able to distinguish between who is the lecturer in the class and the institutions that she's supposed to represent. And this is where one of you who has just spoken is right, because the interviewer knows that there are two voices here. But from my experience, students seem not to know there are more than one voice when I am speaking. And let me just say, I find that the older people grow and the more advanced they go in their studies, funnily enough, the harder it is for them to distinguish. With the children, especially, children are just wonderful. Children, if they are faced in such a situation, they're very clear. This is the puppet and this is this is Nigel. And when they're talking with the puppet, they're engaged, they're completely engaged, they're listening to the puppet and they're actually talking as if the puppet is a real person. And they still know that Nigel is the one who is driving the puppet, although sometimes they forget. But it's so amazing to watch the children because they stop thinking of the puppet as an extension of somebody else. They take the puppet as a character on its own, which is what you've seen the interviewer do. He's talking to her saying, oh, you're sassy, you're this, you're that, as if she's real and as if it's not somebody else behind her. So children are very good at that. But the older we grow, the more we lose that ability. You know, from being battered by life and reality, we lose that ability to make those distinctions and to say, this is what is being said here, this is what is being said here. And that's actually why we are supposed to teach the arts, but you know, that's a story for another day. What do I represent in this class? That's your decision. And I'm going to give you two options about what you want from this class and who you think the person behind me is. I have two choices that I'm going to present to you, which will decide how this class goes for you. The first option I am giving you is fear. Fear where you're coming in and you're thinking, I need to get this degree, I need to get this paper, I need to learn how to write a thesis that will be acceptable so that when I'm being grilled at the defense, I pass and I get my paper. And for me, I have found that that is an obstacle when I'm teaching this class, because people come into this class thinking, when is she going to teach us research methods, theory? When are we going to do the proposal? And am I going to pass this class? So what happens is that when I am teaching the process of writing, which is what this class is about, when I'm asking students to think, they're not seeing me. I am a puppet to them. They're not seeing me, they're seeing fear. Will I pass? Will I be able to write a thesis? Am I doing what she wants? So what they're responding to is that fear. And this is where plagiarism comes in. I don't know whether you've heard of the word plagiarism, where people copy and paste work from other people and they don't give credit to the original author of that work. This is where it comes in because students feel, I don't know enough. I need to sound like I'm a professor. So let me copy paste and put it here. And all that is driven by fear. And we can go very far back in time to where that fear comes from. And maybe that is a conversation you need to have with yourself, with a therapist, with a pastor, with the world, I don't know. But this is the fear that is ingrained in our system, that people come out feeling afraid to have a voice because you're punished for having a voice. I can give so many examples of how that happens. And when you hear me making a lot of noise, that's one of the things I talk about a lot. But in Kenya, you're punished for being authentic, for having a voice, for taking responsibility, everything. And that fear is ingrained in us by one, caning, the caning that we are now advocating for, caning in the schools. When you don't pass, you're beaten. So you're being punished for not knowing, or you're punished for knowing what the teacher doesn't know, or you're called mjuaji or whatever. But the school makes it very difficult for you if you ask questions, if you know. The other thing that makes us afraid is exams, because of the need to pass. And we are told right from the beginning that this is so high stakes, you must pass, because if you don't, you will get nowhere. So from the age of 10, 11, 12, we already have this fear that we need to pass exams, otherwise we're going to be in problems. And so what happens from masters onwards, from masters onwards, the fear is worse than for the undergraduates. In my experience, when I teach undergraduates, when I tell them at the beginning of the class, here, I want to hear your opinion, there's no need to cheat. I even want to hear your experience. They don't ask me questions, they go and do exactly what I said. And they even run with it even further than I expected. But here in the masters, people don't trust me. I tell them, I'm asking for your opinion, I'm asking for your experience, and I have to explain it like 5 times. Now, at least I've learned from 2 semesters of teaching that this is a real issue. It's up to you. If you want to make a bed with that fear, it was going to be very difficult in this class, because to be able to think, to create, and to write, you cannot have fear. You cannot. You cannot be thinking, is this what she wants? Is this what will get me a grade? So the whole of this coming week, I want you to think about it. Ask yourselves if that fear is embedded in you and if you can suspend it. With children, they suspend it naturally, but as they grow older, so our society beats them until they stop being able to have that quality. So what I'm telling you to do is actually to go back to those nightmares, if you have any, and say, I'm suspending you. All those bottomless pit prayers you say it for that fear of not passing. So that's one option. The second option is freedom. I am offering you to be free in this class, because if you're free, you will learn to write. Those of you who are journalists or authors, you know that when you write, you cannot have a clean copy. And the role of your editor is to point out where the mistakes are, where you can make the paper sound better. And sometimes the person even tells you, can you explain this more? Whenever I give back my feedback to students, they panic. They think, oh, I got it wrong. No, it's not about getting it wrong. It's about the process of writing. The process of writing includes the editing. It includes somebody saying, this doesn't come out clearly, can you explain? Or it would be better to put it in this way. It's not about being wrong or right. But to be able to believe that, you have to be free. You have to say, fear is not my portion. I hope I'm sounding like a pastor. Fear is not my portion. If Mwalimu says she wants me to write, even if my paper comes out with many blues and many corrections, it's because she's refining the paper. It's not because she's correcting me. It is not an accusation of me. It's a way to improve my writing. That's what freedom is. Freedom is saying these mistakes are not who I am. I am not a mistake. I am just writing. And I'm getting better. And I'm being told how to improve the way I write. And you know why I am helping you improve your writing? It's not because I want you to sound like me. It's because I'm saying, as a reader, I am not you. I don't know what you think. It's important that you be able to express yourself in a way that other people can understand what you're saying. My role is to help you write in a way that when most readers pick your work, they can understand what you're saying. That's what the value of a second eye is. So I'm just another pair of eyes. I don't know if you can suspend the fear. If you suspend the fear, you will not see me as a lecturer who can give you a grade. You will see me as another pair of eyes who is helping you to improve your writing. For the rest of this week, I want you to ask yourself whether this is something you can do, whether you can accept to be free, to suspend the fear. And when I give you assignments, please not write to me saying, Mwalimu, is this what you want? How will I know whether you're right or wrong until I get something from you? Just do what you understand me to say, because how will I know whether you've understood or not unless you have given me work to do? I can't see where the misunderstanding is. So it's fear or freedom. I'm the puppet. I'm asking you to listen to me. I'm asking you to listen to me, but it's you to decide who you're listening to. You can either listen to the institutions, the grades, the A's, the papers, the what, or you can listen to freedom and say, I'm in this class to learn to write better, to understand how people talk, to understand ideas. It's so strange. People who keep sending devils to the bottomless pit are so afraid. I don't understand how that happens. But I can't deal with fear. I can't teach people to write when they're afraid. If you are afraid, if this is a high-stakes thing, you must get your paper no matter what, find out how you can suspend the fear like that journalist. The journalist is able to talk to the puppet without necessarily addressing Nigel. He's able to talk to her without talking to the puppeteer. Can you do that? Can you listen to me without worrying? Am I going to get a good grade? Is this what she wants? What about my thesis? Students also tell me, you're telling us to think, but what if other lecturers don't accept? Suspend all that. That's what I'm offering. If you suspend all that, you'll be able to learn to write. You'll be able to learn to get confidence in your voice, in your writing voice. You'll be able to get confidence in being proud of your experience, because your experience affects the way you write. It affects what you write about. Clearly, I'm doing the second option of freedom, but like I said, I'm aware that there's a lot of fear when it comes to education in Kenya. There's a lot of violence, which I talk about all the time. I'm aware of it, but like a good child, the way children do. And that's why Jesus said, let them come unto me, for the kingdom is made of such as these. It's because kids are able to say, okay, I'm suspending all these other things and I'm going to trust you. Do you want to trust me? Yeah, that's a choice you have to make, and I'm giving you the next week to figure out how you will do that. So what are my assumptions about the students in this class? Okay, one is that you love ideas, because me, I do. I love ideas. I love ideas, I love conversations, and I love reading. And that's, to me, what an academic is. But I understand, Mazrui said that in Kenya, the education system is saying, have a horrible time today, and then you never have to work again. I'm not that person. Me, I have learned and I have read much more since I got my PhD. I have learned so much about reality. There are things about institutions that I didn't understand. I started understanding them 5 years ago. How our institutions control us so much that it's very difficult to learn, really learn. But I am aware that many in the academy and even many in the school system, once they get that paper, that's the end. There's no more learning. I am not one of those. And I am assuming, when I'm inviting you to freedom, I'm assuming that you're not those people either. That you love ideas, you love conversation, and you love reading. If that is not the case, then when we talk about time management and graduate studies, probably next week, then we can talk about what do I need to do to love ideas? What is preventing me from loving ideas or from reading? Is it time? Is it experience? Is it being timid? Because a lot of people think that if they don't understand an academic article today, it means they are dumb. Oh my God. There's so many academics I can tell you who write badly. And I didn't know that as a student until my lecturer told me. My lecturer, Pius Adesami. We have to be confident. This is the journey of being an academic. We don't understand everything. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. That's what 1 Corinthians 13 says. We don't know everything now, but we get to know more. So we can't know everything now. And this is something you have to trust. We know in part, but we shall know even as we are known. So we can't know everything now. If you don't get now, say so. Say, I don't understand what this person is talking about. Because if you don't understand, you go on Google. And yes, Google is your friend. You go on Google, check, who is this guy? What does he usually talk about? And then you come back to the article and read it for yourself. But don't say, because I don't understand, I'm just going to copy paste what somebody else said about the same article. It shows a lack of confidence in yourself. That's what annoys me about plagiarism. It's not that somebody copied. It's that somebody sat in my class and they didn't hear what I said. They didn't trust me. They thought, Wandia is just talking. She's a puppet of fear. So let me give her what she wants. And yet what I want is just for you to say, okay, I found that this guy came from here and here, but I'm not quite understanding this and this and this. You see, when you say that, then I can now come and explain. But if now you pretend that you know and you copy paste somebody else's work, I never get to explain because I don't know what it is that you don't know. Choose freedom. That's what I'm inviting you to do. Choose freedom, authenticity, the knowledge that you can't know everything and that you know as you go along. You can't be an excellent writer the first time. It takes time, it takes refining, and that's what I am here for. Now, the institution which you're paying also has to pay electricity, water, teachers, all those things. So then they have another agenda. But you have to be able to suspend it or while you're in the class. Then you remember it when the class is over. So I'm assuming that you love ideas, that you love conversation. I think the difficulty about being an academic in a country like Kenya, where ideas are so much hated, is that when you're telling students it's about conversation, they can't imagine it because for most of us, the only conversations we have are oral. And that's good. There's the oral conversation, but there's also the written conversation. The oral conversation comes with emotion, it comes with friendship, it comes with spontaneity, it comes with instant answers, as opposed to something that is written. If you have a question, the author can't answer it for you from the page. You have to look further. But all the academy is doing is having a conversation. So whatever thesis you're doing or whatever study you want to do, you're doing it in conversation with other people. And that's what chapter 2 of the thesis is about, the literature review. The literature review is about what is the conversation on your topic. You know, who is saying what about the thing you want to analyze? Why do you agree and why do you not agree? Could you extend this idea? There are three options when it comes to responding to what others do. You either agree and say, I completely agree. In fact, I'm going to apply this, what he has said in my work. You can disagree. And when you say you disagree, it's not just you end it there. You give your reasons why you disagree. And you don't have to fully agree. You can say, I agree up to this point, but I think his conclusion doesn't work because, then you give your opinion. That's what conversation in the academy is. We do it orally when we're in conversation with each other. So you keep going back and forth and you say, yes, I agree up to here, but this conclusion I don't agree with. You're allowed to do that. You can say, I agree with the argument, but I don't agree with the method because the method does not match the argument. That's what literature review does. So you qualify what you agree on and what you disagree on. So that's the disagreement agreement. It's half-half. Then there's the extending. And this is actually the most important part when you're writing. You're saying, I want to extend that idea. What you're saying is that now you're taking somebody's idea and developing it further. That courage to do that is what is missing in the Kenyan Academy. People don't have the courage to say, oh, McLuhan said the media is a message, I'm going to extend that idea and look at, you know, because he said this in the 90s, what does it mean in 2021 or 2022? We so fear extending people's ideas that what people do is that they either copy them or they say, I'm going to apply it to Kiambu County. Then they put a county there, or this sublocation in this county. That's what we do, application, where you're not even interrogating, does this idea work? How is it legitimate? What are the circumstances from which it developed? We don't answer those questions, say, okay, I'm going to apply that theory here. And sometimes you can even extend the theories you're doing, which is how theory develops. What usually happens is that somebody can theorize something in 1975, and then in 1990, people realize we've been working with this theory, but every time we try to analyze using it, it wasn't capturing a very important part. Why wasn't it capturing that important part? So they build on that. And you can do that if you have the courage to do it. You can say, this person was saying this here, this is the results he came up with, but there's this important part that is not captured. Why didn't his theory capture it? I want to extend his ideas and add to them and say, if this theory is supposed to work, we need to also consider A, B, C, D. That's how knowledge is developed, through conversation. So I've talked about the conversation of writing, but there's also, of course, the oral conversations, which is at seminars, workshops, and conferences. That's what they are for. And we do that a lot. We academics who care for ideas, we are always looking for opportunities to talk and tease out ideas and find out, is that what it means? Why? How does it apply here? And when I started Maisha Kazini, my YouTube channel, that's what I was doing. I was feeling there's so many things I want to talk about, but in the academy, we're not talking about it. Let me pull some academics out of the university walls. Let's see if on YouTube it will work. For me, it has worked. I've made new friends like that because we are having conversations about ideas and things that we are seeing. I'm inviting you to want that, but you know, like I said, it's a choice. At the beginning, when you choose freedom, it takes a while to get used to it. But once you get used to it, you're good to go. So I've said that I'm assuming students love ideas, they love conversations, and they love reading. Why do we read? There's a very interesting thing I've noticed, that when I post things on social media about Kenyan life or education, people say, yeah, they click like, they retweet or they share, and it ends there. But when I say, hey, here is a book where my chapter is published, suddenly people are saying, yeah, I'll pick the book, I'll buy it. But what is in my chapters is not new. So we seem to have this, it's a very strange relationship to reading. I think we look for authority first before we look for the substance. So we want to know, is this an academic journal? Is this what? And then you read. But we have to trust that reading across genres matters. Whether you're reading blogs, whether you're reading newsletters, and I'm going to give a whole list of the kinds of things you can read. Newsletters, book reviews, listening to lectures in your field, and of course, books. There's a whole range of things that you can listen to that are part of conversation. Let us not dismiss things because they were not published by a professor. Everybody has something to say. And what they say can be incorporated into your work. So reading is important. And one of the things I'm going to ask you to do when we talk about keeping time and whatever is to set aside time for reading. You know, when you're in the bus, instead of scrolling down Twitter, look for something else to read. And I will share with you different links of work that will ease you into reading. I think the three I can think of is the conversation. Conversation has a lot of academics responding to current issues. There's the pedestrian newsletter, where people write short pieces on major current issues. And then there's the elephant, of which I'm a part of. So these kinds of readings can ease you into reading the harder academic stuff. And then some of us blog and tweet and there's a lot of good stuff that you get from social media, but you have to know who you're following. And these days, a lot of academics are on social media. I've met so many on social media from outside Kenya. I have interviewed some. So reading, you shouldn't feel that, oh, I must read commas and full stops and footnotes and what. When you're not in the mood for this heavy stuff, you can also supplement with other kinds of easier reading to do. So I've talked about assuming that you love ideas, you love conversation, and you love reading. The second thing that I am assuming is that you want to understand reality and relate to it in a healthy way. What I've found is that because of this fear of people trying to fit in, they find they don't know what to do with reality when it is not pleasant. They think that they have to run away from it. So, for example, a student will pick a topic and then I say, oh yeah, you know, and there's even this contradiction with what you're saying. Then they say, oh, it's not a topic. I'm like, no, it's not that. I'm just pointing you to reality and to more things that you can look for. So we have to have a healthy relationship with reality. We must not turn away from things we don't like. We must confront our own prejudices and biases in the way we read reality. And the assumption is that when you're coming to a master's class, when you're doing a master's, it's because you want to understand reality better, so that you can look through other people's eyes, you can go to the field and research and come up with a representation of reality from your eyes. Actually, that's what a thesis is. It's a creation of knowledge based on your conversation with others. But it has to be based on reality, not what we hope for, but what reality actually is. And the third assumption I am making is that writing is one of the tools through which we understand all these things. Writing is the tool through which we converse with others, through which we develop ideas, through which we understand and explain reality to ourselves and to others. So basically what I'm saying is that in this class, I'm teaching you how to write in a way that helps you understand what you think, that helps the reader understand what you think, and to present something that creates a further conversation. It's not to answer questions and make recommendations, although I know that's what we do here. It's to present another view of reality that can give people conversation. And if you see my YouTube channel, when I have a playlist called Conversations, in fact, it's dominated by authors. As in, I read their work, and now we are having a conversation about their work. So it's about extending knowledge. And knowledge it's fun, it's awesome, it's freedom, because then you don't feel that you have to blame yourself when things are not working. That's the freedom of knowledge, which explains why there's so much contestation about education. Because the people in power know that the more people know, the freer they are and the less they will take BS from leaders, Bible study from leaders. So basically what this class is going to do, we're going to talk about ourselves. What are our lifestyles like? How does it impact the way we think and write? What do we need to change about our current social organization for us to make optimum use of this opportunity to study? Unfortunately, many of us are working. We have to hustle to put food on the table for not just us, but our children and relatives, because the economy is so bad. One salary feeds 5 families, I suppose. So I understand where we are coming from, but you have to make adjustments in your lifestyle. In terms of how do you relax? How do you spend time, leisure time? You will have to make some adjustments there. You will also have to sort out your entertainment, what kind of entertainment you consume and how much of it. So there are many things that might have to shift here and there in your life, and we'll talk about that. Some of the things I tell students to do is, in your WhatsApp group, make lifetime friends here. Meet for coffee every once a month. Even if you're not going to talk about class, just get to know each other, so that when some of you are complaining how Dr. Andia is so strict, then you can all laugh at yourselves and at me and say, oh, I thought you're the only one. That helps. And we need to also take care of our emotional lives. It's not just about the mind. It's also about the soul, because the soul is what tells you what is important to study, and it's also about your emotions. So you need to take care of those sides of your life, not just what you're reading and thinking. So we are going to talk about our lives. We're going to talk about how we listen. How do we make the most of lectures and listening? How do we write? How do we proofread our own work? What should we look for? How do we plan our time? And then how do we produce something that we can be proud of and that we can share with the world in terms of knowledge? Apart from our discussions that we'll be having every week, I'll give you 2 or so articles to read throughout the semester. So that means you will read it more than once. You have to read it more than once. You can't read it once and say it's okay. I mean, think of it the way we do the Bible. How many times have we read the story of the Easter? Why do we read it every year? To internalize it, but also because the interpretations change every year. So you have to read the articles more than once. You'll be reading them throughout the semester. I'll give you articles to read. Then you're going to write for me a summary, and I'll tell you exactly how to do it. Do not panic. Then when I give you your feedback, now we'll start talking about what is your final paper going to be about. And then you write for me an outline. You send it to me. I give you my feedback, and then you write the final paper, and the final paper is what you present as the exam.